When a woman from Liverpool married a man from Scotland, you could anticipate the outside impact they would have on the largest and most recent invasion of U.S. soil by a foreign power. A little-known event in 1963 that literally rocked southern Illinois deserves to be remembered. Louise Harrison, named after her mother, was born in 1931, the oldest of 4 children. Harold, her father, was a bus driver, her mother a shop assistant. In 1954, she married a Scottish mining engineer named Gordon Robert Caldwell. His work took his family from Scotland to Canada and then Peru before, in 1963, he got a job in Benton, Illinois, a coal mining community in the rural southern part of the state called Little Egypt. A year later, her brother, George, the baby of the family at just 20 years old, had a break from work, and he and his older brother, Peter, came to Benton to visit their big sister, Lou. George had made somewhat of a name for himself with a small group of friends in the United Kingdom, and after years of hard work, they were on a well-deserved break. George was excited about the trip, as this would be his first visit to the United States. In fact, it would be the first visit by any member of his small band of friends to the United States. The other 3 members of his band had decided to spend their break elsewhere. John had gone to Paris, Paul and Ringo to Greece. The group of musicians had started playing in some form as early as 1957 and had shuffled through a few band members and a few group names, but had finally settled on the name The Beatles, which is purportedly a tribute to Buddy Holly's band, The Crickets, and had in 1960 been shortened from the name The Silver Beatles. In 1963, the band had 3 #1 singles in the United Kingdom, and in March had released their first album, Please Please Me. They were a bona fide hit across the pond, but almost unknown in the United States. In June, George's mother had sent Lou a copy of the single From Me to You. Enthusiastically supporting her brother, Lou had brought the song to local AM station WFRX, where it had played in June 1963. That is thought to be the first time that Beatles music was broadcast in the United States, played on this turntable, preserved at the Franklin County Jail Museum in Benton. That summer, on a break between recording sessions, George decided to visit the United States, the first such visit by a member of the Beatles, kicking off the British invasion in the town of Benton, population around 7,000, which also happens to be the childhood home of movie star John Malkovich and game show host Gene Rayburn. Reportedly, Ringo was originally planning to join George, but on finding out that Lou had booked local appearances, changed his mind, saying, "If she's going to make us work, I'm not going." George and Peter arrived in Illinois in September, staying at Big Sister's house at 113 McCann Street. They were not met by throngs of screaming fans, but Lou's German Shepherd Sheba reportedly gave an enthusiastic greeting. While in Benton, Lou and George hitchhike over to WFRX with a copy of the single She Loves You, which had been released a month earlier in the United Kingdom. The station played the single and interviewed George live, the first such interview with a member of the band in the United States. George traveled some 30 miles to the town of El Dorado and performed with a local group called the Four Vests, which mostly played Hank Williams music. In 2015, Four Vest band member Gabe McCarty recalled, "He had long hair, was unusual. No one else had hair like that. But he had a real nice disposition." The first live performance by a member of the Beatles in the United States was in a town of 3,000 in the VFW Hall. Contemporary reports say that George wore a dark suit and white shirt with no tie, and that the band played popular songs like Johnny Be Good, Roll Over Beethoven, and Your Cheatin' Heart, but they played no Beatles songs. Apparently the performance went over well, as one member of the audience told a member of the Four Vests, "Oh, you ought to hire that guy if he's trying out for you." George also reportedly performed with some other local musicians in Lou's living room and at the local Benton Bocce Ball Club. George and Peter also spent time enjoying small-town America, watching a movie at a drive-in theater, getting burgers and root beer at a local A&W, where Lou said that George was amused by waitresses on roller skates. 2 members of the Four Vests took George 25 miles to the large metropolis of Mount Vernon, Illinois, where there was a music store. There, George purchased a Rickenbacker 420 guitar from store owner Lester Red Fenton for $400. The guitar was finished in Fireglow Red, but George asked that it be refinished in black to match one owned by fellow band member John Lennon. In 2014, that guitar sold at auction in New York for $657,000. While in the area, Harrison also bought a copy of a single by James Ray called I Got My Mind Set on You. 24 years later, Harrison released a cover of that song as a solo single. It reached #1 on the charts in the United States, just a week before the Beatles were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Harrison brothers visited New York before returning home. 5 months later, the Beatles did their first live performance as a group in the United States. on The Ed Sullivan Show, around 900 miles from the El Dorado VFW Hall. If you ever find yourself in Benton, Illinois, Louise Harrison's house where George Harrison stayed at 113 McCann Street is now a bed and breakfast where you can stay. It's called A Hard Day's Night. Louise Harrison now lives in California. In 2014, she released a memoir called My Kid Brother's Band, aka The Beatles. George Harrison passed away in 2001 at the age of 58. If you enjoyed this History Guy short, then feel free to click that like button, subscribe to our channel, and check us out on Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our merchandise on teespring.com.